What exactly can you do? The VP hero gave me a smug smile as he stood in front of me. What followed was a barrage of complaints and insults. A useless piece of like you has no place in this company. Normally, I would have ignored it, but that one remark was the last straw. Got it, piece of, has no place in this company. I couldn't agree more. The VP beamed at my words, not realizing his words were a massive boomerang. My name is Ken Taylor, 38 years old. I work hard as a sales rep at a mid-sized publisher, Dioro. I'm off to my appointment. All right, I'm counting on you. You've got a networking event later, right? Feel free to head home after the appointment to get ready. Really? I'll take you up on that, thank you. I left the office while mentally reviewing my schedule for the day. Today, I have 3 appointments and 1 networking event. I don't usually initiate conversations, but I enjoy listening to others. Everyone's life is unique, and it's fascinating. Although networking for work is one reason, my main motivation for attending networking events is my interest in people's stories. After wrapping up my appointments and heading straight home, I went to a cross-industry networking event that evening. Nice to meet you. I'm Ken Taylor. Looking forward to working with you. Nice to meet you. I'm Maria Smith. Looking forward to working with you too. That day, I met Maria Smith, a freelance illustrator at the event. She started freelancing right after graduating from college. I was curious about why she chose that career path and asked her about it. That's impressive, going freelance right after college. I lived abroad when I was young because of my father's job. I've been in Japan since high school, but honestly, I never really fit in, Maria explained with a smile. When you grow up abroad during formative years, it's normal to assert yourself. In Japan, conformity and harmony are valued. While there are people who clearly express their opinions, I feel they are still in the minority. I could deeply relate to her words. Different cultures do play a role, but it's true that people abroad tend to assert their opinions clearly. A very clear example is the common phrase in Japan, "The customer is always right." Even if the customer makes unreasonable demands, people apologize profusely. Sometimes, unreasonable demands are actually met. In other countries, if a customer makes unreasonable demands, it's more like, if you don't like it, don't come back. It's a cultural difference. So it's not about which is better or worse. But personally, I admire people who can speak their minds clearly. That might be true. Many Japanese people find it hard to express their opinions, reading the room, or unspoken agreements, that sort of thing. Oh, that's the thing I'm worried about, reading the room. I always say what I think, so I stood out in school. Not that I was sensitive enough to be bothered by it, though. In sales, there are a lot of people whose surface opinions differ from their true feelings. Sometimes, I just want them to tell me what they really think. Maria laughed, finding my words amusing. Absolutely, that's exactly it. Having met like this, we had many conversations and got to know each other better that day. The next day, when I got to work, I was greeted by Dan, a colleague from the editorial department. Hey, Ken, long time no see. Dan came all the way to the sales floor, smiling as he approached. Hey, long time no see. What's up? What brings you here? Yeah, I need a favor from you. Do you have a moment now or any appointments or calls? No, I'm free. Great. Can we go to the break area? Can you spare 10 or 15 minutes? I checked with my manager, who gave me the green light. In our company, as long as we inform our whereabouts, we can take short breaks freely. We went to the break area 1 floor down, bought some coffee, and took a break. So what's the favor? Do you remember Brown, the one I was in charge of? She's been doing great. Her novel is getting published. Really? That's fantastic. I'm happy for you, Dan. Yeah, but here's the thing. We had someone design the cover, but neither of us is satisfied with it. We're looking for something more fantastical. Do you know anyone who can do that? At that moment, Maria immediately came to mind. I recently met a young illustrator. Hold on a sec. Let me load this. I handed Dan Maria's business card and had him scan the QR code. Dan looked delighted as he saw Maria's artwork from the QR code. Great, great. Yes, this is exactly the kind of imagery Brown and I had in mind. Awesome. I'll connect you with Maria. You've been a big help, thanks. I appreciate it. I felt good knowing I could help Dan, Brown, and Maria, but then someone showed up to ruin that feeling. Hey, Ken. Long time no see. How have you been? The voice from behind made me think, oh no, it's someone I don't want to meet or talk to. But I can't avoid it. He's the vice president after all. Long time no see, Mr. Hero. I turned around to see Robert Hero, the VP, smiling with satisfaction. Ken, I heard you're doing great in sales after moving from editorial. That's impressive. Thank you. I responded as emotionlessly as possible. Dan jumped into the conversation. It's rare to see you here, Mr. Hero. You usually have your coffee in your office. That's right, Dan. I usually have my secretary get my drinks, but she's out sick today. It's a hassle. Who's going to make my coffee? I silently thought, make it yourself. Is that so? That's all I could say. I watched out of the corner of my eyes as VP Hero bought a bunch of coffee and juice from the vending machine. Hero used to be in the editorial department and made quite a profit for the company by turning his authors into bestsellers. That success earned him the VP position, but he continued to meddle in editorial work. The president and other executives overlooked his overreach due to his track record, making the editorial department a tough place to work. I used to be in the editorial department with Dan. I joined the company because I loved books and wanted to work with them. I was thrilled to be assigned to the editorial department, but even back then, Hero was a dominant force. Although I didn't interact with him much, an incident occurred that caused him to despise me. Kazu, a manga I had been mentoring, made it to the final selection of our company's New Talent Award and was chosen as the grand prize winner. After much discussion, the one who put a stop to it was the VP, who happened to drop by the meeting. This guy isn't bad, but doesn't quite fit our magazine style, he said. I thought, don't meddle, as we had discussed it thoroughly over multiple meetings. The VP's comment when he just popped in offended my pride as an editor. We did consider that. We held numerous meetings and decided to take the challenge. We won't know if it'll succeed or fail until we see the reader's reaction. Winning the grand prize equates to debuting. Kazu, who I had been mentoring, was about to debut, and I was all in. Ken, I want to become a manga artist, so I'll never give up. Please keep guiding me, he said. I had to tell them painful truths about his drawing skills and story structure multiple times. Each time, he responded with determination, and I found his perseverance endearing. I couldn't let anyone undermine his debut. Maybe it was my youth, but my passion was too visible. I clashed with the VP during that meeting, but it was Manager Will who stopped our endless argument. Vice President, we've spent a lot of time deciding on Kazu's debut. We appreciate your input, but we'd like to proceed with our decision, Will said. Thanks to Will, the VP reluctantly backed down. All right. I'm looking forward to seeing how this turns out, the VP sighed, glancing at me before leaving the conference room. With his departure, a sense of relief filled the room. I'm sorry, Manager Will. No, it's all right. I think you're in the right, Will reassured me. Despite the ups and downs, Kazu successfully won the grand prize and made his debut. His debut work, with its new style, was well received by readers and became popular. It consistently ranked high in reader surveys and even got adapted into an anime, which was a dream come true. Just as I was starting to forget about the clash with the VP, he brought up something unexpected. By the way, you're in charge of Susan Jones, right? She hasn't released any new work lately. Are you even trying? It's an editor's job to motivate their authors, the VP remarked. His words made me anxious because he was right about Susan Jones. Susan Jones was a newcomer who had submitted a mystery novel to an open competition. The mystery novel that won the grand prize had a twist ending that received a huge response. The detailed foreshadowing and compelling characters quickly captured the hearts of fans. It's a bit crude to say, but the book generated significant sales and profits for the company. However, there haven't been any new works for a while. You're right. The author writes slowly, but it has indeed been 2 years since her last work. As the editor, I acknowledge this is my shortcoming. I apologize, I said. Since he wasn't wrong, I apologize to the VP. Seeing this, manager Will stepped in to help. Vice President Susan Jones is a bit of a special case. Ken has been in regular contact, and I'd verified this myself. Once published, the book will undoubtedly be a hit. Could we wait a little longer? Despite Will's support, VP Hero looked dissatisfied. Oh, right. Susan Jones is the mysterious writer, right? He said. That's correct. Susan Jones has never appeared before anyone, not even before me, manager Will, or Dan. All communication has been through email, I explained. At this point, maybe you should leave the editorial department. There's a need for more staff in sales, the VP suggested. Will reacted before I could. What do you mean? You can't seriously be suggesting that Ken moves to sales, can you? I was stunned by how easily the VP agreed with Will's words. I'm serious. Don't you think you're becoming a big fish in a small pond? You should transfer for training or to broaden your horizons. Honestly, if you can't generate profit for the company, you're failing as a salaryman. But I won't fire you because you've contributed, albeit slightly, to the company. Although I was angry, my mind remained calm. This type of person will do anything to get what they want. I felt pity for him and decided I never wanted to deal with him again. Understand. I'll take responsibility and transfer, I said. I'm sorry, Will looked surprised, and the VP had an ugly smile. As a result, I was transferred to the sales department, as the VP wanted. I was touched when Will cried and apologized, saying he couldn't protect me, but I smiled. I'll manage Will. Please take care of things here. Leave it to me. I'll handle everything in your place. If you need anything in sales, just say the word. I have a friend there who knows about you and is ready to help. Since then, despite some ups and downs, I've been doing my best in sales. Meeting many people and hearing their stories has made my life not so bad. A clanging sound interrupted my thoughts. See you, Ken. Keep up the good work in sales. Yes, I'll do my best. I replied as the VP disappeared with a load of drinks. Dan and I sighed simultaneously. He hasn't changed. Both Will and I want you back in the editorial department, Dan said. Thanks. Who knows when that'll happen, but my current life isn't as bad as I thought. Okay, let's get back to it. I'll contact Maria. The rest is up to you. Thanks a lot. I'll keep you posted on the progress. Got it. After parting ways with Dan, I immediately contacted Maria. She was thrilled about the work opportunity. Thank you. I'm really happy. It stand right? Got it. I'll be in touch. With him seeing Maria so happy, it made me feel happy too. Talk to Dan first. He's a good guy and my colleague. Good luck. Yes, thank you. I connected Maria and Dan. I heard that Brown loved Maria's fantastical artwork, and everything fell into place smoothly. However, an unexpected issue arose. The book cover has been put on hold. Dan said he'd contact me, but I couldn't wait. Ken, do you know anything about this? Hearing Maria's dejected voice over the phone, I rushed to Dan in the editorial department. Hey Dan, what's going on? What happened? When I found Dan in the editorial department, I was shocked. He looked utterly exhausted with dark circles under his eyes. I had never seen him in such a state, even when we worked together. I was deeply worried about him. Are you okay? I asked. Sorry, Maria told you, didn't she? I'm sorry. I knew I should have contacted you immediately. I'm really sorry. He sighed deeply and buried his face in his hands. The VP put a stop to it. He said the cover illustration didn't match the content of the book. Dan explained. I felt a wave of déjà vu and dizziness. Damn, I muttered. Dan nodded deeply, confirming my thoughts. I think he overheard our conversation. He probably realized it was through your connection and wanted to sabotage it. Will and I had agreed that the cover design was fine. The moment I heard that, I dashed out of the editorial floor. There was only one place to go, the VP's office. Hey Ken, wait up. I heard Dan's voice behind me, but I didn't stop. I knocked on the door but didn't wait for a response before entering the room. Ken, this is a surprise. Isn't it your first time in the VP's office? He remarked. I ignored his comment and asked what I came to ask. Why did you stop the cover design for Brown's book that Dan was working on? The VP looked unfazed and explained in a condescending manner. Oh, I heard about it. Sorry, it's someone you know, right? I met her at a networking event. If Dan and Brown like her artwork, shouldn't that be enough? I tried to speak calmly, suppressing my anger. I clenched my fists tightly to maintain my composure. Well, can I be blunt? I asked. His smirking, testing look annoyed me. Sensing a challenge, I responded, of course. So what exactly can you do? I stayed silent, listening to his words. I don't think you're any good at your job, Ken. Everything you do seems half-baked, whether it's editing or sales. So I figure anyone you bring in must be just as incompetent. He then dropped his cheerful facade and said, a useless piece of expletive like you has no place in this company. The moment I heard those words, I felt a rage like never before. He could insult me all he wanted. I might not like it, but I could let it slide this time. But calling Maria incompetent was unforgivable. I understand that opinions about art can vary. Some people may like it, and some may not. Still, her artwork has the charm to attract people. I see. I understand. A piece of expletive has no place in this company. I completely agree, I said. The VP looked pleased with my words. Exactly. To put it bluntly, a useless piece of expletive like you has no place here. If that's how he feels, I'll give him what he wants. As my final task, I'll do my best as a staff member for tomorrow's shareholder meeting. I thought to myself, oh, I see. Well, make sure to do it and don't forget to submit all the paperwork properly, the VP said. I left the VP's office and received several calls from Dan, but I only told him I was fine and hung up. A plan was forming in my mind. The next day, as promised, I attended Toro's shareholder meeting. I assisted with the reception and helped the shareholders enter. The shareholder meeting, held in a rented floor of a luxury hotel, was filled with tension. Will, who was in charge of hosting, looked nervous. Everyone, we will now begin the shareholder meeting. We will proceed according to the agenda, Will announced. The meeting proceeded smoothly, and the key and a session with shareholders involved expected questions. After most questions were answered, Will made an announcement. Now, shareholders, with the questions winding down, we have a big surprise today. We have Susan Jones here at this venue. The room buzzed with excitement following Will's announcement. The mysterious best-selling author, who never appears in the media and whose gender and age are unknown, was here. The fact that this was a surprise for the executives, including the president and VP, was clear from their reactions. Dan weaved through the crowd and came up to me. What? This is huge. Susan Jones is here. Who is it? Where is she? Who do you think it is? I replied, watching Dan's excitement. It was amusing. Everyone, this is truly exciting. Now, please welcome Susan Jones to the stage, Will said. As everyone looked around to see who it was, a person stepped forward onto the stage. That person walked confidently and stood before the microphone. Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you. I am Susan Jones. Thank you for having me. I began my introduction. Cameras flashed, and people started recording with their phones. In everyday life, it's rare to be surrounded by so many cameras. Though I tried to stay composed, I suddenly felt very nervous. Ken. I glanced at Will, who looked utterly shocked, his mouth hanging open. Dan stood frozen, pointing at me, which made me laugh. Their reactions were priceless. What? No way, Ken. Dan shouted in a voice at least an octave higher than usual. His incredulous "no way" at a shareholder meeting made me laugh again. As I chuckled, Will appeared in front of me and grabbed my shoulders, shaking me. Wait a minute, Ken. Is this for real? You're not messing with me, are you? Is this an April Fool's joke? A surprise for my birthday? Will was completely confused, thinking it was an out-of-season April Fool's joke or an early birthday surprise. I realized I needed to clarify things before either Will or Dan passed out. Regarding tomorrow's shareholder meeting, I wanted to come forward and give a greeting. May I have your permission to do so? Please keep this confidential from the president and other executives. Didn't you receive an email from Susan Jones's address? Will pulled out his phone to check his emails. I took out the other phone I used as Susan Jones and showed him the sent messages. It's all there. It's true. You really are Susan Jones. Seeing that Will was convinced, I began to address the audience. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the confusion. Let me explain. I explained that I was an employee of Dioro, that I had read many novels as an editor, and that I'd wanted to write my own stories. Honestly, I wrote it as a challenge and didn't know what would happen. I thought it would be fun if, when I debuted, I was a mysterious author that no one had ever met. So I created the fictional persona of Susan Jones. I never imagined my work would become such a hit. I might have been the most surprised that Susan Jones became a best-selling author. I've been wanting to write a new book, but juggling two roles has been tough, so I've decided to quit my job and focus solely on writing. Can you all look forward to my next book? The room erupted in applause at my announcement. Manager Will and Dan were overjoyed, looking at the executive seats. Everyone except the VP was thrilled. I continued speaking while watching the VP, who looked pale and was staring at me from the stage. There's one more thing. Earlier I misspoke. I'm not quitting. I'm actually being forced to resign. The room fell into a state of confusion. The president's voice rang out from the executive seats. What does that mean? I haven't received any such report. Is that so? It seems the VP was planning to fabricate a reason later to make it look like I quit voluntarily. As I addressed the VP, all eyes in the room turned toward him. The VP, visibly shaken and pale, tried to maintain his composure. No, that's not true. I never intended to force you out. Seeing the stammering VP deny everything, I didn't even feel angry. I expected this, so I pulled out an IC recorder from my pocket and played the audio. It was the conversation I had with the VP yesterday. What is that? What are you doing? The VP tried to rush toward me on the stage, but the president stopped him. Hey, security, hold him back. We can't hear anything. Security guards rushed in and restrained the VP. I started the playback from the beginning again. Anyone with common sense would think, what is this guy saying? As the conversation replayed, the buzz in the room gradually turned into anger. Hey, hero, what is this conversation? Don't you have any sense of compliance? It sounds like this happens all the time. The president's face turned red with anger. In contrast, the VP kept stammering, looking around nervously. Unfortunately, this is a daily occurrence. Not just with me, but other employees have faced similar issues. This isn't the only issue. There have been many others. As I recounted the incident with Kazu, the room erupted in boos. Shareholders started shouting, "Hey, what's going on with this company? How can someone like that be the VP in this day and age? That's unacceptable. Everyone, please calm down. Please calm down." The president tried to calm the crowd. So, I shared one more thing with the agitated shareholders. Of course, the VP's presence is a negative for the company. There's one more thing I need to share. I actually hold 70% of the company's shares. As a major shareholder, I demand the resignation of the VP. Can I have your support? The room exploded with applause. The sound grew louder and didn't stop for a long time. Seeing this, the president took the microphone and declared, "We will immediately address the VP's situation. We also promise to improve the working conditions within the company." With the president's emphatic declaration, the tumultuous shareholder meeting came to an end. Afterward, the VP was escorted out by security, shouting protests of his innocence. The shareholders left, and once only company personnel remained, the president and other executives offered their apologies. "We're truly sorry." "No, it's all right. I feel better now, and as long as you address the issues, it's fine. I'm sorry for announcing everything at the shareholder meeting without your permission. Of course, we promise to handle everything. It's not a problem. We were surprised, but we also learned about the VP's misdeeds. Mr. Jones, we look forward to your next work. Please do your best. With that request, I shook the president's hand firmly. Yes, I'll do my best. As I left, Will and Dan came up to me. Man, that was intense. I've never been more shocked in my life. Sorry about that. Honestly, I never expected my work to become so popular. I think I lost a year of my life from the shock because I thought you were just my colleague. Then you turn out to be a mysterious best-selling author and major shareholder. Is this an April Fool's joke? April Fool's is long over. Sorry, Will. I wanted to tell you, but I kept missing the right moment. But now I feel relieved that I don't have to keep it a secret anymore. Will and Dan nodded in agreement. They probably imagined how I must have felt. Yeah, keeping such a big secret must have been tough. It's not just keeping it from a few people, but almost the entire nation. The pressure must have been immense. If it were me, I would have spilled the beans immediately. Exactly. I might have let it slip, and I'd be too scared to drink beer. Okay, drinks are on me tonight. Let's hear all about your next project, Mr. Jones. I've got some ideas, so let's talk. Dan, I count on you too. Got it. Leave it to me. So, for the first time, we went out for drinks as a writer and editor. I was genuinely happy to talk about my work without hiding anything. The beer I had that night was the best I've ever had. After that, the VP was fired, regular workplace environment checks were implemented, and an anonymous email hotline to the president was established. These were significant changes for the company. We will continue to create a more comfortable working environment for our employees and make ongoing improvements. The biggest change for me was publicly revealing that I am Susan Jones. The response was overwhelming, crashing Todoro's website and nearly clogging the company's phone lines with inquiries. I had preemptively holed up in a hotel to avoid the media, but it will take a while for things to settle down. Despite the chaos, my new book's announcement was met with great success. The cover illustration by Maria received high praise, which made me very happy. Maria's reaction when I revealed I was Susan Jones was the most intense I've ever seen. She might have taken the longest to calm down. Thank you so much. I am thrilled to work with you, Mr. Jones. She started crying. And now she's one of the most popular illustrators with a steady stream of work. She credits me for her success, but it's undoubtedly due to her own talent. Everyone has their own sensibilities. If the VP had the capacity to accept different sensibilities, his life might have turned out differently. There's no one in this world exactly like oneself. Everyone is different, raised in different environments with distinct personalities, sensibilities, and values. It's natural for clashes to occur when these diverse individuals spend time together in a group. We should accept what we can and leave the irreconcilable differences alone. Through this experience, I strongly wished that we could live by respecting and compromising with each other.